Hello, Slug family. Welcome to Slug TV, Soldier Living Under God. It is Wednesday, November 4th, and we have a lot to talk about today. As you can see on the whiteboard, plan for voting, plandemic, plan democracy. So, without further ado, let me get right into the whole election debate and the recount voting and who won which state and who's winning, if Biden's going to be president, if Trump's going to be president. We've been through a lot, America. We have been through a lot, especially for the millennials. I think I'm a millennial. I don't know, 87 baby, I guess I would be. But we've seen a lot growing up. And this year has not been disappointed of events and the wow factor of what is going on. I mean, really, I voted yesterday. I got my sticker, my Las Vegas sticker. I voted, and it was really funny when I went to go vote because, I get to the voting booth, and at the booth, they're asking me if I'd rather do a mail-in ballot, which I thought was really odd. What I found even more odd than that, though, was that they didn't ask me for my ID. There was absolutely no identification process whatsoever, which should be alarming because you're supposed to, by law, have an ID on you. So everyone has an identification card, at the least. Even if you have 3 DWIs and you have your license taken away, you will get an identification card through your state. And every identification card or driver's license has a barcode on it. Now, it's funny because if anyone's ever bought alcohol or tobacco before, at a gas station especially, or been to a club or a bar that has high security, what do? They scan your license. They scan your ID card to register it for what? For safety? Because they don't trust the worker to verify that you're of age? So is it for our safety, or is it for statistics for the people watching everything? Because, it's real simple. You have an election every 4 years. We're a digital day and age. So I don't know why they wouldn't just use the barcode to have it scanned for who's registered and who's not registered. You know what I mean? And then you can just go up and boop, scan your thing. They do it for cigarettes. They do it for alcohol. But they don't do it for your vote. Real interesting. Also, they don't have cameras on those voting stations. At least the ones I went to. So there's no way to go back to make sure that, I don't know, let's say I knew the information, right? I live with somebody. What if I went down there and said their name and said, yeah. And all that came up was a little prompt on the screen. It says, are you Vincent DeMarco? And it had my address, yes or no. Like, all I had to do was go like this. Boop. Boop. That's it. I'm in. I can vote for anyone I want. So I'm really interested to know what the validity of the mail-in ballots is, because how do you know that person's still there? I got 2 mailed to me. What is their discount double check? What is their due diligence to make sure that I didn't go to the booth and vote and also mail one in? There was no number. They're just counting votes, right? Which is really funny to me because everything's digital. Then my whole election ballot was digital, but yet we're counting votes. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that it's a tangible thing to count physically. But at the same time, we could, there was a QBR code on my little ballot. So what's that for? So is that attached to me or not? Could I have done voter fraud this year? I don't know. But I did vote. And no surprise here, I voted for Donald Trump. And like I said, we've been through a lot. People want to talk about this pandemic, or like I like to call it, plandemic. And by the way, real quick, for Facebook guidelines and preferences, this is for entertainment purposes only. All right? So you can take what you want for truth, and you can take what you want for satire. Personally, though, I don't bullshit. So this is a big topic for me, and I'm going to throw myself under the bus here. First, just as a whole, America, we went through a lot, like I said, right? The first thing we went through was Do you remember the World Trade Center incident? Do you remember that? I mean, I think we all remember that, right? Well, you're probably wondering what this is. This is a screenshot here from Steven Jackson's card game called the Illuminati card game. Yeah. This came out, by the way, in 1994. I want you to see the year on there. 1994, 1995, 1994, 1995 edition. This is on Amazon. It's a collector's item, actually. Very, very hard to get and expensive. That's why these are just photos and not the actual game, because it's really hard to get. They come out with new editions, too. So like I said, 9/11. This was made in 1994, by the way. Looks like the Twin Towers, right? Real interesting. Huh. I mean, it's just one card. It's not like there's a big thing going on in the world. Nothing's ever planned. Huh. Then you guys remember the Pentagon blowing up, right? You guys remember that? That's interesting. Also, the 1994 edition. Just, Steven Jackson, Illuminati card game. We go forward past 2011 and what I think believed 2010. We had the oil spill. This is just a card game, by the way. This is just a card game. That's all this is. There's no truth to this whatsoever. Just coincidence. The 3 cards of events. That's the oil spill right there. And then, I mean, man, people are evil. You guys remember the terrorist attack in Boston? The Boston bombing? I mean, yeah, the 1994 edition kind of knew about that already. Joggers. It even says, no one ever suspects a harmless jogger. That's weird. Isn't that interesting right there? And then we go fast forward to 2016. We get this guy, Donald Trump, to run for president. This real estate mogul, the apprentice, he's in the media. He's got a big personality. Some would say he's even charismatic. Notice the blonde hair. Note the 1994 edition still. And then we fast forward to March, and we get this quarantine. I mean, no one could have saw that coming, right? Not a single person. Except for Steven Jackson and his card game back in 1994. Notice the mask. Notice the gloves. Notice the syringe, because they're going to be pushing a vaccine, which I highly recommend don't take. I'd rather die than get that vaccine, okay? My life. But yeah, 1994, 1995, you can Google all this. Real interesting there. Just, notice all the dead bodies too right there? See them all? Right there? Those are all dead bodies. Oh, look, the bottle says disinfectant. That's funny. Because I remember back in 1994, just, Purell being everywhere. I remember that. Hand sanitizer just being everywhere, left and right. Real interesting. You take all that, and it's like, I was kind of wondering about all those games. So I went ahead and I got the 2020 version. Let me get one of the cards for you. Let me get one of the cards. I'll be right back. So these haven't come true yet. And I hope they don't. I hope there's no truth to these modern ones or nothing like that. But you can see the back of the card, right? And the whole premise of the game is to try to take over the world. By the way, it's a kids game, ages 4 and up. But this real interesting here. We have an assassination card. So it'd be real funny if there was like a car. I mean, not funny in like a real way, but funny in like an ironic kind of way. If there was just a car full of bombs that unfortunately would attack the president of the United States. Just kind of interesting. And then there's this card too. It's kind of funny to me. I don't know. Maybe it's funny to you or not. But there's a Fraternal Orders card, which would be a card for a secret society, secret members and stuff like that. You notice who that looks like right there for 2020? Do you guys notice who that looks like? Let me get real close there. I'm going to take up the whole screen here. Who does that look like? Huh? Who does that look like? I know that smile. I know that smile. And how you're like, how could maybe Biden won't win? Maybe Biden won't win, or maybe there'll be a tie. What happens if there's a tie? By the way, 269 electoral college votes, which is still possible with all this late recounting and this counting and that blah blah blah. And let's see here. If no candidate reaches 270 electoral college votes, the presidency would be decided by the House members who are sworn in on January 3rd. Each state's House delegation would have one combined vote. If a majority of the states go to one candidate, that candidate would be president. Going into the 2020 election, 26 states have a majority Republican delegation, 23 are majority Democrat, and 1, Pennsylvania, is split. But unlike the Senate, all 435 House seats are up for election, so those numbers can be changed. If the House ends up in a tie vote for president, one state would have to flip to put someone over the top. If it's still tied on Inauguration Day, the vice president-elect will become the acting president until the House breaks the tie. I could talk about the COVID numbers and the very, very low chance of death. I could talk about how Donald Trump, who you all have called obese, made fun of his fat belly and little dick numerous times, right? Saying how unhealthy he is, and he gets coronavirus and is fine. I've seen memes about Chris Christie and the 400 cheeseburgers he eats a day. I know he's not healthy, and he had coronavirus. He's fine. We just saw the World Series. The guy with the big beard. I'm not a baseball fan, but he couldn't play because of COVID, and that he's down there celebrating, smiling in front of the trophy. I know when I'm sick, I can't leave bed. Okay. In fact, there's all these memes all the time about man cold. I have a man cold. I can't do anything, right? So I just find it funny that this is so serious, though, that he was like, all right, I'm going to go down to the game and watch and have a smile on my face. He didn't even look sick. And you could be asymptomatic. You could carry it, not know, blah blah. All these little cool guidelines for this thing that we don't know about, which came from a lab. Which we won't talk about that though. Let's not talk about why that was even made in the first place. We'll just talk about that it's out there, and people are dying. People are dying. People die every day, and people die from all sorts of things. So, not really worried about the COVID, but all the things behind it, the social distancing, the 6 feet apart. Interesting enough, you can Google this. Guess how many feet we need to be apart in order for satellites to track individual cell phones? Just take a guess. Take a guess how many feet we need to be apart. 6! You got it! Wow, look at you. That's smart. 6 feet. Ironically, we need to be 6 feet away, but a sneeze can travel upwards of past 20 feet. But the masks work, even though, the mask will cover things in. But during the fires in California, they told people not to wear masks because the smoke will actually still go through, and it will help suffocate you quicker. And not to mention the particles of COVID, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, are smaller than the gaps in our mask. And even the mask you do buy, they all have disclaimers that say this does not prevent against coronavirus. It says it right on it. To cover them, of course, legally. Forget about human rights, but we'll cover the legal sidelines for the corporations because that's what's important. So as they're doing all this recounting and stuff like that, I just want you to think about those cards I showed you. I want you to think about how crazy coincidental. I mean, these aren't even all of them, by the way. I just printed these out because I thought it was interesting. You guys are more than welcome to go online and Google that yourself. You guys are more than welcome to do that. More than welcome. In fact, I really hope you do. Because there's something fishy going on. I've also seen that Wisconsin has more votes than registered voters. Here we are. We had 4 years to prepare for it. And all along, by the way, Trump's campaign's been saying, like, hey, the Democrats are going to try to steal this. And, for 4 years, it's just been a manhunt against him, his character, his party, everything he stands for, everything he wants to do, everyone he appoints to certain things. like Amy Coney Barrett, that just got Supreme Court justice, and then not even questioning if she's good enough for the job. The president that could be Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Um, they're like, oh, we're gonna get rid of her. Really? You're just gonna get rid of her like that? Why? Because she's Republican, and now that the Supreme Court is majority Republican, aren't we supposed to be representing the same laws? Just real interesting. I know Biden has his little campaign thing, Biden Harris, and if you actually look at that, there's three red banners in there, and if you look at the three red banners and just type that in Google yourself, you'll find all sorts of information on the three red banners in the 1950s, the socialist movement for China. And meanwhile, China, his son was in there, no affiliation with him whatsoever. Of course, I'm sure he's innocent. They gave him money. The mayor of Moscow, the big bad Russia that they've been trying to pinpoint to Trump for the last 4 years, they gave him a couple $1 million. Also, no big deal. Everyone can just overlook that. We'll overlook the fact that it was supposed to be a 2-week shutdown. We'll overlook all these things because just Trump. Man, I hope and I pray that Donald Trump wins presidency. I hope and I pray that there's even more conflict because this is just going to propel us into the next step of America. Whatever that may be, I don't know. And if Biden does win presidency, I'm still going to be an American. I'm still going to love my country. I'm still going to treat everybody how I want to be treated. I'm not going to promote chaos or anarchy or anything like that whatsoever because that doesn't get anybody anywhere. You know, that doesn't help anyone's lives. It doesn't help business owners. It doesn't help the individual. It doesn't help cities. It doesn't help communities. And it doesn't send a good message for kids. It doesn't say, hey, like, overlook differences, this and blah, blah, blah. Like, if you start burning everything down just because someone else won, what is that? That has astronomical effects in the youth. Almost as astronomical as making kids wear a mask for months upon time, canceling school, which personally, if I was in charge, I'd say, hey, everyone that wants to go to school and be out in public, go out, be out in public. Everyone that doesn't want to be out in public, we're going to give you a stipend of this much money, and you guys can stay inside and be sheltered, and we'll basically put you in your own little house arrest. Everyone else can go on and live life merry and happy. Because, you could die in a car crash right now. You could get paralyzed walking down your steps and falling. Nothing's guaranteed. Your safety's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that Trump's going to win. It's not guaranteed that Biden could win either. That's why we have a vote. That's why we have to count. But as they're recounting votes and doing all this, I hope the information I shared with you today at least rattles something in your brain to make you say, that sounds fishy. Because there's people in charge of this world. There's people in charge of this world, and they say what's what. And then we just get the effects of that. It's real interesting to me, though, that all these people have hated Trump since the get-go. Since the get-go, Trump said that he's going to drain the swamp. And ever since the get-go, no one has wanted him there, and no one wants to keep him there. Just think about that. Yeah, you could say, oh, he was part of their club. This and blah, blah. Yeah, he was. You ever get invited to a bad house party, and then you realize you're not meant to hang out with these people? I like to think that maybe something like that happened. And he saw how fake and evil some of these people are that are the controllers of this world. And he said, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm going to do something about it. Now I can only take that and hope that I can do my part too of waking people up to the truth and just the questions of, whoa, that's scary. That's really scary. Like I said, they didn't scan my ID. They have barcodes. They scan it for alcohol and tobacco. No problem doing that. I go to the club. They have no problem scanning my ID. Of course, to cover them, right? Because they want to make sure everyone's 21 or 18, wherever the product may be, or wherever the environment may be. They want to make sure everyone's legal to be there. So they go to all these steps doing that. But when it comes to voting, well, we can't do that. That would be private. No. Well, for what reason? Why? We have the technology. You couldn't just make it scannable with our barcodes on our licenses or IDs? Wouldn't that have been easier? Like, you already know who's voting for who, obviously, if you wanted to look it up. If the government wanted to see who I voted for without me telling them, because my name, of course, is registered to that ballot, they can go to there and say, hey, this person voted for this person. So let's speed up that whole process maybe next time and just use the ID that they gave us with the barcode on it that we have to use for everything else. All right. Anyway, that's enough for today. Hope you guys have some questions of your own to look into. My name is Vincent DeMarco, once again, for the Facebook Police, purely for entertainment, just as this card game was made for entertainment. Same thing, no truth to this card game, no truth to anything I say. I don't have a freaking idea what I'm talking about. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day, and once again, God bless.